Hello, everyone, and welcome to the other side of the news. Today, we'll take a look at the Wall Street Journal for the 22nd of July, 2020. Front page. What do we have? Well, I'm not sure this is the front page. It's, it's electronic version. Yeah, that goes. U.S. orders China to close its consulate in Houston, Texas. The U.S. ordered the closure of China's consulate in Houston in order to protect American intellectual property and private information of U.S. citizens, the State Department said. That's interesting. I don't know who that's going to help. Small businesses brace for a prolonged crisis, short on cash and customers. Hopes for a quick recovery from the coronavirus pandemic have been dashed, and companies are exhausting rescue funds. Many are shutting down or slashing jobs again. Yeah, this is a big problem, folks. We have to start wearing masks. We have to be able to do like Europe's been able to do, which is get back to business. Disney World actors battle their union for right to return to work. Yeah, that's always a problem with unions. Sometimes the union and its goals don't align with its membership goals and the people they're supposed to be supporting. Sometimes unions get too political for their own good. Will Americans get a second stimulus check due to COVID-19? Let's take a look at that article. Will Americans get a second stimulus check due to COVID-19? Congress and the Trump administration are weighing proposals to deliver a fresh round of checks to U.S. households. This is where things stand. President Trump has said he wants to send Americans a second round of direct payments as part of fresh coronavirus relief legislation following the checks delivered in the spring. House Democrats have proposed new payments in their aid plan, while Senate Republicans are putting together a package this week. Here is a look at the prospect of Americans receiving more direct aid from the federal government. What are Democrats proposing? In a $3.5 trillion bill passed in May, House Democrats proposed sending $1,200 payments to Americans, with $2,400 available for joint tax filers and an additional $1,200 available for each dependent, up to a maximum of $6,000 per household. The Democratic plan would gradually phase out the payments for individuals with adjusted gross incomes of over $75,000 a year and married couples with incomes greater than $150,000. What about Republicans? Some Republicans, whose party controls the Senate, have resisted the idea of sending Americans a new round of checks. But as the economy's recovery looks to be hampered by a resurgence of coronavirus cases in the South and West, Republican leaders see additional checks as part of any deal with Democrats. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has said this week that the GOP package would include another round of direct payments to households, but he hasn't offered specifics. I think we need it. What is the president pushing for? President Trump and top have voiced support for another round of payments, but he hasn't stated a specific number or terms of eligibility. Let's take a look at this. A way to take back Portland. This is on the opinion page by Ted Cruz, senator from Texas. My bill would hold officials accountable for failing to protect their constituents. Every city, every town, burn the precinct to the ground, read a sign in the autonomous zone Antifa rioters established in Portland, Oregon. Another, the only good cop is the dead one. The area radicals took over in Portland last week. In the second autonomous zone, lawless criminals have set up in the city during the 8 weeks of riots since the death of George Floyd. Fringe progressives have also set up autonomous protest zones in 6 other cities in the past few weeks: in Asheville, North Carolina, New York, Philadelphia, Richmond, Virginia, Seattle, and Washington. These radicals hate the police, reject the rule of law, and are intent on terrorizing their communities. In Seattle, police were forced to abandon their precinct building in Chaz, and city officials told the police they could respond to calls for help only in the event of mass casualties. Families and business owners were left to fend for themselves. Folks, that's why people buy guns. In Portland's Antifa-occupied land, Fox News reports, businesses have racked up millions in property damage and lost sales, and hundreds of thousands of Portland residents have stayed off the streets for 6 weeks. And the autonomous zone in New York, local residents, even those who say they support the camp's politics, have complained that it has turned into a disorderly shantytown where violence has occurred, according to the New York Times. Mayor Bill de Blasio has allowed the zone to thrive and, despite the pandemic, has tolerated squatters convening there without social distancing. By contrast, Mr. de Blasio had the entrance to a playground in a predominantly Orthodox neighborhood welded shut to keep children out and sent the police to break up a gathering of Jews mourning the loss of their beloved rabbi. This is not the American way. Local leaders who allow rioters to destroy the lives and businesses need to be held accountable. That's why I'm introducing the Restitution for Economic Losses Caused by Leaders Who Allow Insurrection and Mayhem Act. Reclaim for short. The bill will hold state and local officials liable when they abdicate their legal duty to protect the public in cases where death, serious bodily harm, or significant property damage have occurred. Specifically, my bill will allow for treble damages, blah, blah, blah. As public officials, our first responsibility is to protect our fellow citizens. Any politician who willfully ignores that sacred duty is in gross violation of that oath. It's time to restore civility, hold government officials accountable, and take our cities back. Hear, hear. Thank you, Senator Cruz. Now, on the lighter side of the news, let's look at this. I'm a parent and a bad teacher. All I do is panic about school. September is coming and too many children and educators don't have a plan. Oh, by Jason Gay. Yeah, his articles are always somewhat sarcastic. The 2020 Summer Olympics were supposed to start this week in Tokyo, which means yours truly would have been airborne right now in a cramped sealed tube en route to Japan. This is the part where I'm supposed to tell you I'm glad the Olympics was postponed until 2021 because I'm getting to spend more time with my family. I'm obligated to tell you that I'm becoming a quarantine super parent who has taught his children a musical instrument, a second and third language, how to computer code, play bocce, and neatly fillet a fish. But I can't. I have to tell you the truth. I'm pooped. I can't take it anymore. I'm not a quarantine super parent. I haven't taught my children a musical instrument, a second or third language, and how to computer code, play bocce, or fillet, or neatly fillet a fish. I can barely handle making mac and cheese and playing Candyland. My family is really sick of me. Seriously, they're tired of my nonsense. You think it's easy living with me? They'd be happy to shove Daddy on a plane and say goodbye for the rest of July and the beginning of August. And honestly, I'd give anything to be stuffed into seat 55F, sandwiched between a sweating shot put coach and some guy watching 14 hours of Charles Bronson movies. I don't mean to sound ungrateful. This intense family time has been great. I'll never forget it. I'm sure I'll wrap it in nostalgia and lies years from now in the retelling. But I'm exhausted. So is my wife. We're doing the best we can. But these weeks feel like months, and the months feel like decades. The children are, I don't know where my children are. I think they're making bathtub gym and cutting each other's hair with rusty pocket knives. Which leads me to the topic of this week's column. School. Or more specifically, what the heck is happening with school this fall? Is there any way we can safely pull this off? Have you talked to the parent of a school-age child lately? Here's a real-life transcript. So, what is the story with school this fall? Parent, I can't even think about what I'm going to, so annoyed, curse word, I'm calling curse word. It's chaos. Parents are besides themselves. Autumn is coming and too many people still have no idea what their children will be doing. Will they be going to school, or will they be marooned at home? Again, allegedly, virtually schooling. Will it be one of those on-off schedules where they go to school every other Tuesday for 2 hours, then off for 3 weeks, then every other Friday for 45 minutes until November, when they have a winter break, until, I don't know, September 2029? Real question, can we simply stop and drop off our children in the woods hoping they'll be raised by wolves? It's complicated in my house. We have 2 elementary school-age children, and my wife is a school teacher. Whatever is done, we want it to be done safely. The health of students, teachers, and school employees has to be the absolute focus and priority before anything else. It's an obsessive topic which is inhaled this summer. My friends without kids, they're fired up about baseball, the NBA bubble, and the signature cocktails they're making. And all I can think about is whether fall is going to be just as bonkers as last spring. The lack of clarity creates stress for children, schedules, childcare plans, finances, and careers. I know I'm not alone. As an experiment, walk up to a parent right now and tell them anything. You, hey, did you just see that bald eagle dive into the ocean and eat a shark? Parent, if they go to school Mondays to Wednesdays and then have Thursdays and Fridays off, what does that mean? Do they have those days off as it's totally off, or is it back to school on the iPad? You, hey, look at that Beyonce walking down the street with a unicorn? Parent, if they go back with the delayed start in October, what does that mean for winter break and a possible second wave? You, help, my foot is getting gnawed off by a bear. Parent, what if they've gotten much better at virtual schooling? What if it isn't so bad this fall? I know it sounds like I'm joking, but I'm not. If you're a parent, you've already stopped reading this column 3 times to stare out the window and wonder what you're going to do if your kids don't go back to school. If you're a parent in a school district that's already announced all fall classes will be virtual, you're just sobbing into a glass of whiskey. Let's not ignore the serious problems we're creating. How these issues with schools are causing learning gaps and putting disadvantaged children at an even greater disadvantage. Children who need extra educational support are in crisis. Meanwhile, privileged families are creating their own little education yurts with tutors and tennis coaches and pastry chefs and widening the chasm between families who can and cannot bathe problems in money. It's a mess. We all hoped it would be different by now, that the country had gotten into arms around this pandemic and momentum would be going in the other direction, but it isn't. We hope schools can safely open because schools in other countries have been safely reopened, and those other countries have gotten control of the virus. Teachers, administrators, and school support staff are rightly concerned, and the situation can't be resolved by stomping our feet and yelling, "Open the schools." I feel for every parent and student out there, especially the students who are in critical stages of their education. We've got to make every effort to support them. No disrespect to my profession, but whether we have school is a much bigger deal than whether we or not have the World Series. I'm lucky. My kids are young, which means I have to keep an eye on them. If I leave them alone in a room for 20 minutes, they'll definitely start fighting with sharp objects. But I'm pretty sure they have enough time to bounce back from this disruption. But I can't wait for school to come back. If not, I'm really going to ask the wolves. Well, that's a great note to end on, folks. Thanks for watching The Other Side of the News. As always, please remember to subscribe, leave some comments, like. Until tomorrow, bye-bye.